Hello everyone, I'm going to show you how to solve polynomial equations, and hopefully this will help you out as we continue into our next chapter. So first, what is a polynomial function? So a polynomial function is a function of this form, and the main difference between a polynomial function and a quadratic function is the quadratic functions only have a second power. Polynomial functions can have cubes, fourth powers, fifth powers, anything all the way up there. For polynomial functions, the number in front, the a sub n, is the leading coefficient, and a sub 0 is the constant term, and we call n the degree. Now, a polynomial function is in standard form if its terms are written in descending order of exponents from left to right. So here's an example question. We want to find the zeros of this polynomial function. Just like when you're finding zeros of quadratics, that means we're going to set it equal to 0, and we're going to solve. So we're going to factor. Factoring is always the first thing we want to try. In this case, they have a 2x cubed in common. So if I factor out a 2x cubed, that's going to leave me with 4x squared plus 4x minus 77 equals 0. So then I'm going to continue factoring. I'm going to factor this. It's going to be x times x, and then 77 is going to be plus 11 minus 7. So we get three answers. 2x cubed equals 0, x plus 11 equals 0, and x minus 7 equals 0. So our answers are x equals 0, x equals negative 11, and x equals 7. So these are the zeros of this polynomial. Just like we would solve a quadratic, we do the same thing. It's just the factoring gets a little bit more tricky. Now here's another method of factoring. When you have four terms, we can try to factor by grouping. So if I group the first two terms and the last two terms, and I factor them out, in the first two terms, they have a 2x squared in common. So then that leaves me with an x plus 3. In the next two terms, they have a minus 5 in common, so that leaves me with an x plus 3. So now they both have x plus 3's in common, so we can factor out the x plus 3, which leaves us with 2x squared minus 5, and that equals 0. So we get x plus 3 equals 0, and we get 2x squared minus 5 equals 0. So if I solve this one, I get x equals negative 3. If I solve this one, I get 2x squared minus 5 equals 5. X squared equals 5 halves. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 5 halves. So once again, it's the same thing we've been doing as far as finding zeros and finding intercepts. It's just the factoring gets a little bit more complicated. How about this one? We have a t to the fourth and a t squared. This is exactly like a quadratic, except it's to the fourth power. So I'm going to use 3t squared and 4t squared. And then since it's minus 2, I'm going to do minus 2 equals 1. And you'll notice that that does multiply out to make negative 5. So I'm going to set the first piece, 3t squared minus 2 equals 0. So I get 3t squared equals 2. So I get t squared equals 2/3. So if I take the square root, I get t equals plus or minus the square root of 2/3. For the other one, 4t squared plus 1 equals 0. Moving the 1 over, so I get negative 1. Divide by 4. Take the square root, and I get plus or minus the square root of negative 1/4, which is the same thing as plus or minus I times 1/2. So 1/2 I. That's another method of factoring when you have a t to the fourth. Now, you might be asking, that's great, but what if you can't factor something? What if something is non-factorable? What would you do in that case? Well, if something's non-factorable, we're going to fall back to our helpful tool, the graphing calculator. So I'm going to put this into my graphing calculator, and there it is. 2x cubed plus 6x squared minus x minus 4. And if I graph it, it looks like that. So I want to find the zeros. I'm going to use my second calculate button, and I'm going to use number 2 to find the 0. So it's asking me to put it on the left. So see the blinking dot? It's on the left of the 0. Press enter. Then I put it on the right of the 0. And I press enter. I press enter again. And I find that one of my zeros is 0.794. So x equals 0.794. That's one of the zeros. Then I can do that again. Second calculate. Find the 0. I scroll over here, and I put it on the left, and I put it on the right, press enter, and the other 0 is negative 0.86. And And then I want to find the last zero. So second calculate, find the zero. And I scroll over here, click on the left. Press enter. Over there, press enter. Press enter. And then the final zero is x equals negative 2.93. So there's a way you can use your graphing calculator to help you find zeros if a function is non-factorable. And finally, get a word problem. The boys bought a modular storage unit in the shape of a cube with 3-foot sides. So they bought a cube, and it's 3 by 3 by 3. So the volume of that current cube is 27 square feet. They want to buy another cube to increase their total storage to 35. So they're going to buy another cube. We don't know what the new cube is, but it's x by x by x. So the volume of the new cube is x cubed. They want their total storage space to be 35 cubic feet. So in that case, then it's going to be x cubed plus 27, and we want to keep 35. If I solve that, I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides, which gives me this formula. Now, you do need to know the formula for factoring cubes. So the formula for factoring cubes, I'll write down in the bottom, a cubed minus b cubed equals a minus b, a squared plus ab plus b squared. So in this case, a is x and b is 2. So I'm going to get x minus 2, x squared plus 2x plus 4 equals 0. So one of my answers is x equals 2. For the other answer, I need to use the quadratic formula. For this answer, I'm going to get negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 4 times 1 times 4, all of that over 2. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 12 over 2. Because that's the square root of a negative, that's an imaginary answer. It doesn't make sense in this problem, so you just ignore it. So your answer is they should buy a cube that's 2 feet in length, width, and height to get an extra 8 cubic feet, something they have 35. Alright, so hopefully that helped you, and you have all your notes, and you're ready to go into class tomorrow. So I'll see you tomorrow.